welcome to another Dr. Russ air rifle adventure. I'm not sure what kind of an air adventure we're going to have today. It's about 4 degrees out here and no wind. That's the good news. But tonight there'll be wind and we'll plummet below zero. I'm not so worried about the cold. We have all kinds of clothing and boots and heat packs that can keep us warm. I think what I'm really concerned about is just slipping and falling, because you see, we've had an ice storm with this particular storm, and everything that we're standing on has about a ½ inch of ice on top of it. So maybe ice skates would be better than boots right now. We have about 450,000 homes in the Detroit area who have no electrical power. That means no cooking, no heating, so we're concerned about them. We've kept our power. I do have a generator that can power the whole house in the event of the loss of electricity. But a lot of Detroiters did not. Another thing that we're working on is I've been tracking, and you see there's all kinds of tracks. There's the smaller critters. Here we've got these steps, but you can see the tail dragging behind them. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at a little bigger steps and no tail, which typically means a coyote. And here in Michigan, we've got an awful lot of wild boars that are working their way down into the suburbia areas like we live in here. For that reason, I purchased some night vision equipment, because that's when the wild boars come out most frequently. I'm not sure. Well, maybe. So one of the things is that you look here at this square picture with your eyes and you see what I'll call the big picture. But one of these, this one here, is an infrared light that the human eye doesn't detect, but it lights up this area. And then this is your binoculars, and you can bring it right up. I was out here last night. It was pitch black, and these work just fine. That'll help us with wild boar. Meanwhile, let's go in. I've got a few tips to share with you today. I have a series of our YouTube videos, which, by the way, also appear on Rumble videos, which is pretty big on the West Coast. But I have about 10 that are titled, "Are You a Great Airgunner?" And to be a great anything, I think you have to be a pretty good person to be good at the other things too. And so that's what I like to do. I like to cover some of the lessons I've learned in life that I hope made me a little better person, and then resultantly maybe a better air gunner too. Imagine for just a moment that you and I are going to do a project. We're going to build something. We're going to do something. But I've got my vision of what it's going to look like when it's done, and you have your vision, and they're not the same vision. How in the world are we going to effectively tackle that project if we have two different visions? And quite frankly, that's the way marriages are. Men have one focus of marriage, and women have another, and that can cause some problems. Let me give you some examples. Men are often focused on what their purpose in life is, and part of that purpose is being a good breadwinner, providing the funds that this marriage is going to require. And what his title might be, you know, whether it be somebody on the line, tool and die, or vice president of the East Coast sales force. those titles and those purposes are what a man often focuses on after he focuses on courting the woman and having her accept an engagement ring and answering yes to the question, will you marry me? That's not what women focus on. Women focus on the romance part. Did he bring me flowers? Did he bring me candy? Did he do this? Did he remember my birthday? Did he do this? Did he do that? Is he a good father? And she's looking for that person that she's going to be associated with. Take his last name. Those are totally different things than what the man is. And so what we men have to do is do a lot of communicating during the courtship period, letting her know what our focus is and finding out what her focus is, so that you could make a good team in marriage. And if you have a good marriage, you're probably going to have a good job and a good life. I think one of the things is that men like to have a trophy wife. Their focus is she's got to be the prettiest and the greatest figure and this and that. I learned that maybe there's a higher calling than that, because one thing for sure, you're both going to grow old and you're both aren't going to have six-pack abs to the last day of your lives. So what should men focus on during the courtship? What might be important during a marriage? And I believe something that's often neglected completely is that you want a problem solver. Because I got to promise you, life has its problems. It has its speed bumps. And it's so good to have a spouse, a helpmate, who can help you with all of those problems, that her focus is on solving problems. Oh, I was very fortunate with Dr. Paula. That's exactly who she is. I was able to watch her in meetings and make that determination. And for that reason, we've had 16, going on 17 great years together. Speaking of Dr. Paula, I went to her father to ask for her hand in marriage, and I did, and he said yes. That meeting lasted about 30, 40 minutes. I said that I would take good care of her, etc., etc. About 2 or 3 weeks later, one of Paula's sisters came and said, by the way, Dad, she was still living at home, Dad is wondering when Russ is going to come and ask for her hand in marriage. And I said, I already did. Not by his recollection. Now, whether he had dementia, whether he just wanted me to go through the exercise twice. I did return to the house. I did have a second meeting. I repeated pretty much what I had said in the first meeting and asked for her hand in marriage. And he smiled and said yes. This is a rather unique pistol, especially with this, I guess you can't see it from there, but this CV Life red dot and a laser on it. And the fact that this shoots .22 caliber pellets, slugs, single shot. It's a very, very effective handgun called a Strike Point. I'll be doing a review on it. Another thing that I think helped make me a better person was, as we go into, for me it was meetings, maybe for you it was just an encounter with a group of guys at lunch or supper or whatever. But whatever it is, I think we have a tendency to let everybody know how much I know and to be the talker of the group, to do the most talking, to be quick to come back if we disagree with something that somebody else said. Fortunately, I learned quickly that if I kept my mouth shut and let everybody else talk first, and then I spoke. I then knew something I hadn't known at the beginning. I knew where everybody stood. I knew their level of understanding. Sometimes when I thought I knew the solution going into the meeting, after I heard everybody there, I changed my mind and we turned left instead of right. Because I learned something from all of these people that weren't as smart as I was. So if you want to be truly smart, be the last to speak. Some of you have seen this feather before. I glued a piece of dental floss to it and a loop so that it could hang on a barrel of whatever I was shooting. And that was a quick reminder of where the wind was going. Wind is extremely important, the direction of wind, when we hunt. Most animals are olfactory, O-L, factory, olfactory. Dogs are olfactory. Animals are in large olfactory. What does that mean? That means that they have smelled things and they have smells in their brain, like a library, where you and I might have pictures from our eyes or a taste or we heard something, and that is stored in our library type brain, but not critters. It's about smell. And deer with their long noses, the Dobermans that Dr. Paula raises here at the house, they have long noses and they really do smell things. And you'll want to be very careful. I see people going out saying, well, I built a blind out here and I'm going to go hunt there. Well, during the course of a day, it's not uncommon for the wind, which might have been blowing this way in the morning, is blowing that way in the afternoon. How could that be? Well, if you study weather, you'll see that these lows will come past you. And as it's passing over you, often the wind is blowing in one direction for about 4 hours, and then the next 4 hours it's blowing in another. You might have to change blinds. Maybe you should have built two to watch the same field because they're olfactory. And you might want to have something to keep track of the wind. Now, to me, this was a very inexpensive method. Sometimes these guys have these little puffers that puff out some, I don't know if it's flour or what it is, but it lets them see the wind is blowing that way. And then they can put their blind where they think. The point is, maybe you need two blinds. Maybe you need to be very, very aware of which way the wind is blowing. This is an interesting 10 sign. Maybe you will, because you're not a critter, you're a human, you might just remember visually what that sign says. So many signs just say, no trespassing. We have a security alarm. This goes the next step. I also have a backhoe to bury you with. What am I saying? I'm saying that in addition to smell, we've got to be aware too, of course, of the critters' visuals and hearing. So we want to be very, very quiet. And we also want to watch for any type of movement, which is why I like to stay very still, camouflage so they can't see me. Because that's what they do. They love to just stand still and just kind of watch you walk on by. And they're very patient as you walk by, and then they go back to eating, etc., etc. We need to learn from the game that we're hunting. And that's why our motto here at Dr. Russ's Air Rifle Adventures is to stay safe, to stay sharp, and that's what a lot of this instruction's about, and to stay silent. I've shot 2 animals, one right after the other, because the second one didn't hear the first one get hit. Didn't sense that there was danger in the area, but I was there. And I got 2 for the price of 1 as far as I was concerned. Got the blind ready, got there early in the morning, but I came home at 2. That can help you. Stay safe, stay sharp, stay silent. I think maybe the most important part of a hunt is maybe click on that small circular photo of me so you can access our whole channel. And we've got several videos out of, I think, 110 now that talk about accuracy. And you have to be accurate with your gun. You have to know, and it's true even if you have a powder gun, that is going to shoot in an arc. I was shooting earlier today my crossbow. Same thing. You better know the trajectory of your slug, your pellet, your BB, or your arrow when you hunt. Now, what am I aiming at? Well, a deer is nothing more than shooting at a basketball, which is right above the front legs. Because in that space right there, that circle, that bullseye, is the heart and the lungs and other organs. And if you hit them, that deer, that elk, that moose, that bear, that hog isn't going to go too far. And so to me, and I remember taking my wife, Dr. Paula, hunting for the first time out in Wyoming in the Bighorns. And I said, we're just going to be shooting something the size of a basketball. Now, if the animal's facing you, boy, you can see that right on his chest. Just shoot for the basketball. If it's a side shot, again, imagine this basketball is sitting on his front legs. What if he's glancing away? Look for the basketball size, that's where the organs are, and come in right behind this shoulder. You don't have to blow the heart and lungs in, or you can blow them out. And if you'll recall, I live here in Michigan on the Canadian border, and I was born in Texas on the Mexican border. And we had something down there in Texas called the Texas heart shot. What is a Texas heart shot? Well, I've used it a couple of times and it works. What if you see the back end of a deer, a wild boar, a coyote? You still know that this lung and heart are all up here at the front, above the right legs, the front legs. But when you shoot the rear end, just imagine that here is this cavity of ribs and very soft flesh of organs, and that bullet, that pellet, that arrow can come right up through the tail, right up through those ribs, and hit the basketball and blow it out the front. That's a Texas heart shot. It's possible because all we're looking for is this size of a shot. If you can hit this basketball 50 yards, at 100, at 200 yards, you can hit a deer. I remember shooting a pronghorn antelope at 465 yards, and there was a 10-mile-an-hour wind. I had to place the shot out in front of the antelope's chest and above its head, knowing it was going to drop 16 inches, and then the wind was going to also blow it 16 inches and hit that basketball. And that pronghorn did a spin and dropped. When I shoot pronghorn, I turn the whole thing into beef jerky and antelope jerky, and my 4 daughters enjoyed it greatly. I hope these tips on your personal activities and on your hunting will help. That way you'll be a great air gunner. Please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. And if you have some questions, don't worry about whether they're good questions, bad questions, whatever. Send them to me. Every morning I work about an hour on that project. I love answering them. In the meantime, let's all be a better person today than we were yesterday. And then becoming a great air gunner will be easy.